Some women bring light the moment they walk into a room. Others, well, the light returns the moment they walk out. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about bitterness or blame, it's about clarity, because if you've lived long enough, and I know you have, you've seen it for yourself. Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend, and not every hand you hold is meant to hold yours back. Life's too short to keep giving your time, energy, and hard-earned peace to women who drain you, confuse you, or leave you second-guessing yourself, especially those who hide behind charm, beauty, or those perfectly polished social graces. In today's video, we'll uncover 6 unmistakable signs of bad women, traits you can't afford to ignore. This isn't about judgment, it's about wisdom, about recognizing who deserves a seat at your table and who's only there to take the bread. As Billy Graham once said, the happiest people I know are those who turn over their problems to God. I'd add, it also depends on the company you keep. Let's sharpen that clarity together. Ready? Let's begin. 1, she's always the victim. The first sign of a bad woman is one many men overlook until it's too late. She's always the victim, and I mean always. It doesn't matter if it's a stranger at the grocery store, her best friend of 20 years, or her last 3 ex-husbands. Somehow in every story, she's the one who got hurt, betrayed, or wronged. You sit across the table from her, listening, nodding, maybe even feeling protective at first. She's convincing. She paints vivid pictures of how unfair life has been to her, how misunderstood she is, and if you're not paying close attention, you might think, maybe she just needs someone to treat her right. That's the hook. But the longer you stay, the more you realize this isn't about past wounds. It's about control. I knew a man, Tom, a good man, steady, kind. He met a woman like this after his divorce. At first, he thought she was refreshingly open. She told him everything, how her ex lied to her, how her boss held her back because he was intimidated by strong women, how her family always took her sister's side growing up. He admired her strength for getting through all that. But as the months passed, the stories never stopped, and they always followed the same script. Everyone was toxic. Every job ended unfairly. Every friendship ended in betrayal. Eventually, Tom found himself playing a role he didn't sign up for. He was either the hero, constantly reassuring her she was right, or the villain when he disagreed, or heaven forbid, suggested she take some responsibility. This is where it gets dangerous. A woman who sees herself as a perpetual victim will never take ownership of her role in anything. She will rewrite every situation to suit her version of the truth, and if you get close, you'll be dragged into that narrative, often as the next source of her suffering. You'll be the one who let her down, the one who never really understood her. It's a cycle, and it's exhausting. Billy Graham taught us that peace comes from trusting in God, not from blaming others for our troubles. But the woman who clings to victimhood refuses that peace. She surrenders to life's circumstances and demands that everyone else bear the weight of her emotions. She will drain your energy, your patience, and if you're not careful, your peace of mind. So what do? You recognize it for what it is. You stop playing the rescuer. You don't take responsibility for someone else's wounds that they refuse to heal. You stay grounded in reason, not emotion. You offer compassion, but you keep your boundaries. And if the stories never change, you step back quietly, firmly. Wisdom reminds us that peace is found within, and if someone repeatedly pulls you into chaos, it's not unkind to walk away. It's wise. 2, she's addicted to drama. The second sign is one you'll feel in your gut before you see it with your eyes. She's addicted to drama. And I don't mean the occasional emotional outbursts. We're all guilty of that now and then. I'm talking about a woman whose entire life seems like an endless stage play, one she's directing, starring in, and rewriting by the hour. If life around her gets too calm, too steady, she'll find a way to light a match and burn it down just to feel alive again. To her, peace is boring. Stability makes her restless. And without even realizing it, you'll be pulled into a cycle of conflict, confusion, and emotional chaos that never seems to end. The pattern usually starts small. Maybe one day she's upset because you were distracted while she was telling a story, or you didn't text back quickly enough, and suddenly it's proof you're pulling away. What was a quiet evening turns into an argument you didn't see coming. You spend hours trying to explain yourself, apologizing for something you don't fully understand, and by the end of it, you're the one exhausted while she seems strangely energized. That's the thing about people who thrive on drama. It gives them a sense of control. Chaos becomes their comfort zone because it keeps them at the center of attention. The world spins around their emotions, and everyone else is left trying to keep up. Billy Graham often spoke about the dangers of living for the approval of others rather than for God's peace. A person addicted to drama isn't interested in truth or resolution. She's interested in the feeling of power that comes with stirring emotions, whether her own or yours. She loses sight of reason because she's blinded by impulse and emotion. She's not looking for harmony, she's looking for stimulation. And if you happen to be the nearest source of it, you'll be caught in the crossfire. The real danger for you is how easy it is to get swept up in it. You may tell yourself that you're helping, that you're calming things down, but you're not. You're playing your part in her drama, whether you mean to or not. And over time, it chips away at your peace, your clarity, and eventually, your sense of self. The solution? Distance. Not necessarily physical at first, but emotional. Step back. Let the waves crash, without jumping in to save anything. Observe, but don't participate. As Graham often reminded us, we are responsible for our own faith, our own peace. And sometimes the wisest response is silence, space, and the refusal to engage in someone else's chaos. You're not obligated to be an actor in anyone's drama. Your role as a man of faith is to remain grounded, steady, and above all, free. She maneuvers with precision, demanding more the moment you give in, not always through words, but through subtle gestures, shifting moods, and the quiet withdrawal of affection. You find yourself explaining your actions more than making decisions, slowly becoming the villain in a narrative you never agreed to. If you fail to meet unspoken expectations, the blame falls on you. Over time, you stop being yourself and start playing the role she has written. Billy Graham offers wisdom on this. He reminds us that true freedom comes from within, that no one who surrenders their will to the control of another is truly free. Guilt, when wielded as a tool of manipulation, clouds judgment, pulling you into a cycle of appeasement where your own purpose and values fade. The solution is not to fight or argue, but to establish clear, unwavering boundaries. Your actions should stem from conviction, not fear. You give what you choose to give, not out of obligation, but because it aligns with who you are. And when she attempts to tighten her grip through guilt, you remain steady, calm, and resolved. A man who knows his values and stands firm in them is truly free, and no amount of guilt can take that away unless he allows it. Another revealing sign emerges when life takes an inevitable hard turn. She lacks empathy. Sooner or later, everyone faces trials. Losing a loved one, struggling with health, experiencing setbacks. It's during these times that we learn who is truly in our corner. A woman who lacks empathy won't be there. Or if she is, it's only because she thinks she should be, not because her heart is in it. The signs appear in small ways at first. You mention feeling exhausted after a brutal week, and she barely looks up from her phone before steering the conversation back to herself. You share something deeply personal, and she brushes it off as if it were a casual remark. A man I know once shared his experience dating a woman after the passing of his wife. At first, she seemed supportive, but when his grief deepened, when he needed someone to sit in the quiet and simply be there, she grew restless, uncomfortable, impatient. She didn't have the emotional depth to meet him where he was. Instead, she changed the subject, offered shallow reassurances, and redirected the focus to herself. In time, he realized he was lonelier with her than he was alone. Billy Graham teaches us that love is rooted in selflessness, in the ability to extend compassion without expectation. Empathy cannot be forced or taught. It either exists or it does not. And when it's missing, you will feel it in your bones. An empathetic partner doesn't need to fix your problems or offer endless advice. Her presence, steady and sincere, is enough to remind you that you're not alone. But a woman who lacks empathy can sit right beside you, and yet you'll feel miles apart. If you find yourself making excuses for her emotional distance, stop. Pay attention to that feeling. Faith teaches us to accept reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. And the truth is this: if she cannot meet you with compassion during life's storms, she will not be there when the next one arrives. The solution isn't to demand more, it's to choose differently for yourself. Walk away. And not in anger, but in clarity, see your heart. Then there's another sign, one that seems harmless at first, but will drain the life out of you over time. She is obsessed with superficial things. Not in a casual way, but in a way that measures life by appearances, status, wealth, approval. She values things based on how they can be flaunted rather than for their true worth. You may initially see it as a preference for nice things, but the issue runs deeper. It's not about the objects. It's about what they symbolize to her. Validation, superiority, external recognition. Soon you'll feel like a contestant in an endless competition you never signed up for. Whether you make 6 or 7 figures, whether you drive a dependable truck or a luxury car, it will never be enough. There is always someone with more, and she is always looking for the next step up. Billy Graham warned against this kind of mindset, reminding us that wealth is not about possessions, but about contentment. A woman consumed by status and appearance will never find lasting satisfaction. She will chase a fleeting high, only to be left empty once again. It's like trying to fill a broken jar. Everything you pour in leaks right back out. But here's what faith teaches us. External things hold no weight in defining a person's character. True worth is found in virtue, in the principles by which we live. A woman fixated on appearances will never recognize the depth of a man who stands firmly in his values. Billy Graham once said that true fulfillment isn't found in accumulating more, but in seeking less of what does not serve the soul. The woman obsessed with superficial things is the poorest kind of companion because she will never know contentment and she will never offer peace. And peace is something a man of faith guards above all else. If you find yourself with someone who cares more about how life looks than how it truly is, understand this: you will lose yourself trying to keep up. Your energy, your dignity, your inner calm, it will all be spent chasing shadows. The solution is simple, though not easy. Walk away. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. A man who values his peace knows when to leave a shallow life behind. Finally, the last sign, one that reveals itself in small, seemingly insignificant moments, but grows into something much bigger. She cannot admit when she is wrong. No matter how clearly you lay out the facts, no matter how calmly you present your case, she will find a way to twist the story in her favor. And if she cannot win with logic, she will shift the ground beneath you. Suddenly, it's no longer about the original disagreement, but about how you made her feel, how you always do this, how you are the one at fault. The real issue disappears under an avalanche of emotional deflection. At first, you may chalk it up to stubbornness or pride, but over time, you'll realize it's something deeper. She sees being wrong as a weakness, and to her, weakness is unacceptable. The problem is not simply pride, it is a fragile sense of self. Admitting fault feels like a threat to her identity, so she fights it at all costs. Billy Graham taught that humility is a mark of strength, that admitting faults is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. A person who refuses to acknowledge their mistakes does not grow. And a relationship where one person is always right is a relationship where the other is always losing. The healthiest relationships are built on mutual understanding, not power struggles. If you find yourself in a constant battle over basic accountability, recognize this: she will not change unless she chooses to. and you cannot force that transformation. The only choice you have is your own. Do you want to spend your life with someone who sees every conversation as a battlefield, or do you want peace? The answer is clear. A man who values truth walks away from those who cannot face it. And a man who seeks peace knows that sometimes the greatest strength is found in choosing to leave. Their identity becomes something they fiercely defend, often at the expense of growth, connection, and trust. When being right takes precedence over everything else, the opportunity to learn and evolve is lost. Billy Graham understood this well. He emphasized that true wisdom lies in the ability to accept correction, not as an attack, but as an opportunity. If someone refuses to embrace this principle, relationships with them often become exhausting, as the responsibility to be the reasonable one always falls on you. In such dynamics, connection fades, replaced by control. The irony is that by refusing to admit fault, they forfeit what truly gives life meaning, the pursuit of truth. If a person cannot utter the simple words, "I was wrong," they are not only shielding their pride, but also closing themselves off from growth, understanding, and love. For a man guided by Billy Graham's teachings, clarity is essential. One must choose humility and truth and seek a partner who does the same. Not because they are perfect, but because they have the courage to acknowledge their imperfections. Without humility, there is no partnership, only competition, and life is too short to keep score. Billy Graham often spoke of wisdom and peace, reminding us that time does not heal where reason is unwelcome. It only deepens the wounds. The solution is to find someone who understands that admitting fault is not a weakness, but a true sign of strength. And if they cannot offer that, then it is time to walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect and commitment to a life of wisdom and peace. Another sign to be mindful of is when someone disrespects your time. If life teaches us anything, it is that time is the one currency we never get back. Money can be earned, health can be restored, but once time is gone, it is gone forever. A person who disregards your time is not just careless, they are a danger to your peace of mind. If you are not cautious, they will silently steal years from you in ways you might not even notice until it is too late. I recall a man named Richard, a successful contractor in Houston. He had built his life from the ground up, a disciplined and respected man. However, in his personal life, things were different. Richard began dating a woman named Elise. She was charming, warm, and knew how to make a man feel wanted. But over time, a pattern emerged. She was always late, first 20 minutes, then 40 don't. She frequently canceled plans last minute or simply forgot them altogether. At first, Richard was patient, believing life could be hectic, but weeks turned into months. He found himself rearranging his work schedule, waiting alone at restaurants, and canceling plans with friends because Elise had promised to see him, only to bail without a second thought. One day, after being stood up again, he looked at his phone, shook his head, and said, "I feel like I'm always waiting." When someone disrespects your time, they do not just keep you waiting physically, they keep you waiting emotionally and mentally. If you are not careful, they will convince you this is normal, that you must be more understanding, that this is just how things are. But Billy Graham would remind us that time is a gift from God and should not be wasted. Richard eventually realized Elise was not busy or forgetful. She simply did not value his time because she did not value him, and he had allowed it by not valuing his own time first. The solution is not confrontation or ultimatums, it is clarity. Respect your time as fiercely as you respect your life, because they are one and the same. A person who honors you will honor your time. They will show up when they say they will. They will treat your time as sacred because it is. Billy Graham often encouraged people to ask themselves, how long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself? Richard stopped waiting, and so should you. Time wasted is life wasted. Spend yours where it is valued. I would love to hear about your journey and triumphs. Please hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell,